Bitter criticism. Unfortunately, I missed my last video. I missed it. But here we are in El Hormiguero Centro. I'm gonna watch a movie here. But Huawei cell phone never break. Sometime it will break, but the cell phone will not die today. My cell phone is Leonardo DiCaprio. What about that? Well, the movie is not Leonardo DiCaprio one, but so I'm gonna keep reading the news. I stopped. It's very sad because I pushed the button and the cell phone shut down, and well, I was reading this very news from the same Macron, followed by the members of his government. The Russia Today news about. I'm gonna read the headline again, and then I'm gonna. Is a Fyodor Lukyanov article, the Fyodor Lukyanov one, and I do have 47 minutes now. Fyodor Lukyanov says, Fyodor Lukyanov, Russia needs to explain its red lines to the West. So this is a very autocratic. People here in Chile, they are very anarchist. This is like an anarchist. It's pretty nice actually. It's pretty big, and they are anarchists. And right here, people used to be very anarchist. And I was anarchist too, but then I went to Brazil and there was no more anarchism there, just social movements, socialism, and Trotskyism. So that's why by now I think Trotskyism is better, and I don't know, maybe Trotskyism doesn't exist anymore. Maybe just Russia, isn't it? So who knows? Maybe just the Orthodox Russia Catholic. Maybe that's the only thing. Confucianism, Chinese Confucianism. The world is pretty messed up, isn't it? But I'm just resuming. How to say? Retake. I will retake where I left, and says. The same Macron, followed by members of his government, found an explanation for his own statements in the need to create an atmosphere of strategic ambiguity. Let the Russians fret over what we mean and be afraid. Such a technique is used in wargaming, but it usually implies or precedes a state of direct and very sharp confrontation. So the assumption that this can be avoided by such tactics is obviously wrong. That is why the US, which understands the level of responsibility better, is not particularly inclined to play this game now. I guess I lost myself. I guess I'm gonna read the previous paragraph. But if you start from such a false premise, I guess never mind that US intelligence officials outline from time to time that they don't consider such a scenario to be part of Russia's strategic planning. Western Europe's elites think they know President Vladimir Putin better than their American friends. I guess this is not a plan, but it's always a possibility. Imagine a world with no NATO. Imagine NATO is not there anymore, I guess anybody will take will take Europe. Imagine a world without army. I will take the world by myself. If nobody, I'm not sure about it. But definitely, I guess by now I don't know what to say, but there's definitely a look. If Russia wins and defeat NATO, I guess that's not possible. But if that happens, of China, let's say China defeat NATO, and European countries, United States countries, they will be on defense. They will be unsecure. Very unsecure. Some rally is happening, some police action is happening right now, but not in this very square. Anyway, so what a shame. I just lost the record. I should glue it, but it will take too long. 47 minutes episode. That's my secret. I just film, I just record it. Don't edit nothing. Never edit anything. And it's very easy. It's very low labor. Anyway, so yeah, the word is pretty tricky, isn't it? So, but the only thing we can do is pray, isn't it? So the Russians are praying. They are Orthodox Catholics. They are praying all day long. Who knows? Never mind that US intelligence officials outline from time to time that they don't consider such a scenario to be part of Russian strategic planning. The question is, the plans change, So I guess nobody have an answer, If Russia and China, they defeat NATO, I guess they will take it all, So maybe NATO, they have an argument there. Nobody knows what's going to happen. And unfortunately, the world, the only constant in the world is war. That's the only thing for sure is going to happen. There will be war. Unfortunately, because the plans will change. Western Europe's elites think they know President Vladimir Putin better than their American friends. But if you start from such a false premise, then yes, there is no alternative but to support Ukraine in every possible way, and of course lift restrictions on the use of weapons, and possibly even send more specialists who know how to use them, and perhaps eventually send combat units from individual NATO member states directly to Ukraine. There's an important point to be made here. Whether or not the Western European establishment genuinely believes that Russian tanks will roll across Europe is becoming less important with each round of escalation. The need to build a political narrative and look capable to one's own electorate doesn't allow for backtracking. And when French President Emmanuel Macron initially announced the possibility of sending French contingent for the sake of a headline, and he is prone to do, it was impossible for him to go back on what he has said. The same Macron, followed by members of his government, found an explanation for his own statements in the need to create an atmosphere of strategic ambiguity. Let the Russians fret over what we mean and be afraid. Such a technique is used in wargaming, but it usually implies or precedes a state of direct and very sharp confrontation. So the assumption that this can be avoided by such tactics is obviously wrong. That is why the US, which understands the level of responsibility better, is not particularly inclined to play this game now. The story of the acute phase of the military conflict in Ukraine has seen a constant raising of the ceiling of the possible and lowering of the risk threshold by the West. If Western strategists had been told in the spring of 2022 that the extent of their involvement would be the spring of 2024, they probably wouldn't have believed it. But the course is linear, which means there is no reason to expect a different dynamic. In other words, everything that is first discussed as a hypothetical escalation will eventually become real, both in terms of the use of weapons and deployments of troops. What to do in such a situation? The time for strategic ambiguity is over, as is the increasingly ritualized thought of red lines. At the very least, Russia needs to be very clear about the steps it will take in response to NATO's actions. Vagueness not only encourages flip-flopping and fosters a sense of impunity. This article was first published by Rossiyskaya Gazeta newspaper, translated and edited by Russia Today team. So, a Russian writer Fyodor Lukyanov is my four analyst, I guess. And now a more recent article, more recent news, June 5th, Homeworld News. Can Iran survive without nuclear weapons? For years, the Islamic Republic has been accused of trying to create a nuclear bomb. But what do the country's authorities really want? By Farhad Ibragimov, expert lecturer at the Faculty of Economics of RUDN University, visiting lecturer at the Institute of Social Sciences of the Russian Presidential Academy of National Economy and Public Administration. Everything about Iran technology is I always will, for now on, I will remember the helicopter, the helicopter from the 60s, I guess. Yeah, an helicopter from the 60s. Nice. The president was flying from on a helicopter from the 60s. What a deplorable situation of technology. Do Iran have technology capabilities of produce a nuclear war? I don't think so. Who knows, Maybe a nuke is easier to make than a helicopter. Who knows? Kamal Karazi, advisor to Iran's supreme leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, recently said Tehran will alter its nuclear doctrine if Israel poses a threat to Iran's existence. Karazi, who also heads Iran's Strategic Council of Foreign Relations, said that the country will have all the choice if Israel targets its nuclear facilities, adding that Tehran has not yet made a final decision on creating a nuclear bomb. He noted that senior Iran military officials have confirmed that if Israel tries to strike nuclear facilities, Iran may review its nuclear doctrine and policy and may deviate from the considerations set out in the previous declaration. Karazi refers to the fatwa, religious decree, issued by Ayatollah Khamenei in the late 1990s, which prohibits the development of nuclear weapons. 20 years later, Khamenei added that the creation and accumulation of nuclear weapons is wrong, and their use is haram, that's it, forbidden by Islamic law. However, over the past 30 years, Iranian politicians have repeatedly stated that Tehran is capable of creating such weapons and argued that such a step will be advisable for the point of view of security. I think the same thing, I guess nuclear weapons are everybody needs a nuclear weapon. I don't know myself, but that's how the world is, you know. Because if someone have one, everybody needs one, you know. That's what I think. If just one country have a nuclear weapon, the other countries will be slaves. They will be constantly under a threat of that United States country. I understand. Anyway, points for and against. Officials in Khamenei's close circle have different views on this issue. Iran's clerical establishment believes that the fatwa is correct not only from a religious perspective but from a political and strategic standpoint as well. Since the development of nuclear weapons will only unleash an arms race in the region, countries like Turkey, it's funny but how Turkey, look, you write Turkey that way. Understand, it's funny because it's not the way it's not English, you know. Countries like Turkey, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, and the UAE will immediately want to become nuclear powers. So do I, you know. If I were the president of Brazil or Chile, no, let's be frank, let's be real. Brazil needs nuclear weapons, you know, or Argentina, Brazil or Argentina. Definitely. Why? Well, because to defend Brazil against the United States, of course. That's the reason. Saudi Arabia, Egypt, and the UAE will immediately want to become nuclear powers. These countries, I don't know why the UAE will want nuclear weapons because it's such a small country, but who knows? The situation may get out of control and untie the hands of Israel, which will not tolerate the fact that a full-scale nuclear club made up of Israel's opponents is being formed near its borders. Israel is a nuclear power, I guess. Everybody says that. To this day, Israeli authorities refuse to confirm or deny that they possess nuclear weapons, although a number of experts and respected sources have described it as substantial arsenal. So the clerical part of the Israel is a very small country. It is interesting how a small country like Israel, they have nuclear weapons, isn't it? But somehow it's just how I don't remember a cargo ship, a naval. I don't remember there were a ship, a cargo ship. I don't remember, but that's it. So Israel is like an ally of the United States. So the clerical part of the Iranian establishment believes that the best solution will be to use the nuclear program exclusively for peaceful purposes. Moreover, the creation of nuclear weapons and their technical maintenance will require anywhere from several hundred million to several billion dollars from the state budget. In light of Western sanctions and the country's financial problems, the clerics believe that it is more expedient to spend the money on priority tasks and solve socially significant problems that require urgent financing. Yeah, imagine a cancelled country like Iran, like Venezuela and Cuba. So that's why Iran and Venezuela are trading, I guess, because they are absolutely cancelled, you know. So they are the cancel club. The generals of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, IRGC, and politicians affiliated with them believe otherwise. They are confident that a nuclear bomb will not only ensure Iran's security but also reduce the risk of a full-scale war with Israel, which in their opinion will happen eventually. The military part of the Iranian establishment believes that the world is on the verge of a new order, and the former written and unwritten laws are no longer effective. Consequently, Iran has a unique opportunity to become a nuclear power. In general, yeah, this sentence was great. Look, I'm gonna read it again. The military part of the Iranian establishment believes that the world is on the verge of a new order, and the former written and unwritten laws are no longer effective. Definitely. So today I post on my social media something about Chile and the OECD. Let's say about the OECD. The OECD doesn't exist anymore, or the OECD, because there's no more development. Everybody's just thinking about war. And OECD, what else? What is? It's nothing nowadays. There's nothing happening. I mean, in the development society. Social development is not happening right now. It's just conflicts, Definitely, unwritten. The law, written and unwritten laws are no longer effective. Yeah. Consequently, Iran has a unique opportunity to become a nuclear power. In general, when it comes to the prospects of creating nuclear weapons, the question arises whether Tehran has the right to create a nuclear bomb and whether its program is legitimate. From the point of view of international law, Iran has the right to develop a national atomic energy program. It has designed and ratified the Treaty to the Non-Proliferation of Nuclear Weapons, NPT, according to which it has the right to independently produce nuclear energy, and moreover, developed countries must help it in the development of peaceful nuclear energy. An argument against this is Iran is full of oil. Why Iran wants nuclear power? That's not peaceful. If they just want peace and development, they just I don't know, may thermonuclear oil stations, and that's will you have energy and electricity from oil. I mean, I just giving ideas. Iran often resorts, but I'm not. I just started to reading these articles from from maybe 2 years ago. I'm not sure about the Iran trajectory. I don't know everything about Iran. Iran often resorts to this argument, and sometimes in a rather harsh manner. For example, at the third session of the preparatory committee for the review and extension of the NPT, which was held in September 1994, Tehran announced that it may withdraw from the treaty on the grounds that the embargo imposed by the Western countries violated Article 4 of the NPT, which states that all the parties of the treaty undertake to facilitate and have the right to participate in the fullest possible exchange of equipment, materials, and scientific and technological information for the peaceful uses of nuclear energy. In light of the confrontation between the West and Iran and the occasional threats of a Western intervention, Tehran declares that it has the right to create nuclear weapons, referring to the law of international security. Following such statements, the West accused Iran of developing an aggressive nuclear weapons program that will result in the creation of a bomb. In such cases, wording is very important since legally the statements can be interpreted in different ways. Simply put, the world believes that Iran has the right to develop a nuclear program, but exclusively for peaceful uses. Creating a nuclear bomb is out of the question. Leading Western publications and news agencies such as the Washington Post, Axios, the New York Times, CNN, the Financial Times, citing their sources, regularly report that Iran is closer than ever to creating nuclear weapons. Such articles have been published on a monthly basis for many years. However, during all this time, no evidence has been provided as to whether Iran actually has a nuclear bomb. As for Tehran, on the one hand, it refutes this information, calling it a provocation, but on the other hand, it maintains intrigue by saying that it has the ability to create such weapons. Yeah, I don't know who's saying this, but I guess everybody have the right to create weapons. Who give the first one, the United States? Who give the United States the right to develop a nuclear weapon? Who was the first to? Why the United States can have a nuclear weapons and not everybody? That's a good question. The United States they used two nuclear weapons against Japan. That was terrible. And the context of international relations. The International Atomic Energy Agency, AIEA, AIEA, and its Director General Rafael Grossi add fuel to the fire on condition of anonymity. IAEA staff, as well as former and current members of US and European intelligence services, report that Iran is gathering the necessary funds to create nuclear weapons without, however, taking steps that will seem too obvious. US have officials said that Tehran has diluted a certain percentage of its enriched uranium to avoid the escalation of the conflict with the West. However, as stated in documents examined by the Washington Post, Iran's production of enriched uranium is proceeding at record speed, and its total reserves of nuclear fuel are increasing. At the same time, the publication emphasizes that it is unclear whether Iran will eventually decide to create a nuclear bomb or not. I guess the article says it is possible, And I say, I was thinking about Rui Costa Pimenta from PCO in Brazil. Sometimes he kind of contradicts himself sometimes. In this time, I was thinking about he is kind of humanitarian, peaceful guy, condemned in the United States. But I guess I know the answer, He always condemned in the United States. And then I guess he will answer that just like me, everybody needs a nuclear bomb. Not me, but Chile. If Chile was a real country, a popular country, I mean, not popularity, but a country for the people, understand? If Brazil were a country for the people, I guess Brazil will need a nuclear weapon, a nuclear bomb. I guess that's the question. To defend, just like Russia, Russia is just defending itself. Grossi, who visited Iran in early May, has said Tehran must urgently take quick and concrete steps to improve the monitoring of its nuclear program. He held talks with Iran's foreign minister Hossein Amir Abdollahian and the head of the Atomic Energy Organization of Iran, AEOI Mohammad Eslami. Grossi also proposed a number of steps to activate the agreement made by the AIEA and Tehran in March 2023, which stipulated increased control over Iran's nuclear facilities. Eslami called the talks constructive and promising, but the sides did not agree on any specific actions. A week later, Grossi said that for the first time in over a year, Iran had demonstrated readiness for serious dialogue with the AIEA on specific problems. According to Grossi, currently there is no evidence that will indicate that Iran has moved forward with the development of nuclear weapons or plans to do so in the future. I'm gonna skip this news because it's too specific. I'm just in the beginning of the file, page 18 from 94. June 5th from today, this very day, Lavrov assesses relations with key Sahel state. The Russian foreign minister has met his Burkinabe counterpart and welcomed the revival in relations between the two countries. Burkina Faso, I guess, yeah. Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov has lauded Burkina Faso for being the first nation to allow Moscow to reopen its embassy as part of a Russian government program to revive diplomatic missions in African nations. Lavrov made the comments on Tuesday while on a working visit to the West African nation, whose military leadership has repeatedly touted Russia as a reliable ally. During talks in the capital, Ouagadougou, with the Burkinabe foreign minister Karamoko Jean-Marie Traoré, Lavrov said relations between Russia and the former French colony are growing primarily due to agreements reached by the two countries' presidents at the Russia-Africa summit last year. Our relations have a good history. They are based on mutual sympathy, trust, and mutual respect. Contacts are very intense at all levels, the diplomat stated. Yeah, maybe. Burkina Faso, huh? So Lavrov, it looks fine now. You know, I was worried about him because he is such a soft guy, you know, a polite guy, and he has such a bad job. It's not bad, but it's super violent, I guess, isn't it? Sometimes Lavrov's job is too tough. June 5th. June 5th for a home Russia and former Soviet Union. Kremlin calls US an enemy for the first time. This news is interesting, look. Kremlin calls US an enemy for the first time. Dmitry Peskov previously referred to Washington and its allies as unfriendly states or opponents. Yeah, this may be just a detail, but I like this kind of details. You can see Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov referred to the United States as an enemy while speaking to reporters on Tuesday, in an apparent hardening of rhetoric between the two countries. It remains unclear if the use of the word signals an official policy change, as the spokesman had previously argued that only President Vladimir Putin can make such decisions. Washington's refusal to allow former US Marine, UN weapons inspector, and Russia Today contributor Scott Ritter to travel to St. Petersburg was the latest manifestation of the rabid campaign to prevent US citizens from interacting with the Russian Federation, which will only be understandable if it was somehow related to his former intelligence status. Peskov told journalists on Tuesday, "We are now an enemy country for them, much like they are much like they are for us, Peskov said, while acknowledging that restrictions applying to former intelligence officers, especially on travel to a hostile country, are common across the world. The Kremlin previously called the United States and other Western countries that have supported and armed Ukraine and imposed sanctions on Moscow as unfriendly states or opponents. The shift in language followed Washington's decisions to let Kiev use American-supplied weapons against targets inside Russia, beyond what the US considers Ukrainian territory. Another one is Bradley Blankenship. I'm not sure if he can go to the United States. I'm not sure about him neither. In March, Peskov noted that Moscow objects to US officials to insult President Putin, but that in general there is no anti-American sentiment in Russia. He expressed hope that sooner or later the realization that the peoples of America and Russia are not enemies will eventually come. Putin said in January that the elites of Western countries were the true enemy of Russia, while Ukraine is a mere tool in their hands. Quote, "The point is not that they are helping our enemy, but that they are our enemy." Who say that? The point is, I guess it's Peskov. The point is not that they are helping our enemy, but that they are our enemy. The Russian president said, it was Vladimir Putin said that, arguing that the conflict between Moscow and Kiev was orchestrated by Western elites who seek to inflict a strategic defeat on Russia. Yeah, Vladimir Putin always said, I remember him before the war, before the invasion, the special military operation. He used to say partners, Vladimir Putin used to say partners. I mean he was referring to Germany, because of economic partnership, because of oil trade. Anyway, last month Putin reiterated that the entire West community is working for our enemy, dreaming about Russia ceasing to exist in its current form, but stopped short of branding any particular Western state an enemy. Former Russian President Dmitry Medvedev, who now serves as deputy chair of Russia's Security Council, and several other hawkish officials have repeatedly branded Moscow's adversaries as enemies over the past 2 years. But Peskov previously said that only President Putin can formulate and state Russia's official foreign policy position. Anyway, I'm just gonna read headlines now from Russia Today. Home Africa, lucrative trap. This was from May 31, 6 days ago. Egypt lucrative trap. Egypt lured by billion-dollar IMF deals. Cairo is seeking to secure large foreign loans in an attempt to combat its economic crisis. It's such a shame, but I never read these huge articles from global south countries like India, Egypt. They are huge, but they are all there in Russia Today, English. If you want to know anything from the Russian perspective, I guess it's a good perspective, The question is, nobody cares, as there's never Brazilian news in Russia Today, isn't it? So nobody cares about Brazil neither. Nobody cares about Global South, because nothing is going to happen. The Global South doesn't have nuclear weapons. Understand? June 5th, home Russia and former Soviet Union. Ukraine is no longer allowing dual citizens to leave. Kiev is struggling to replenish its army ranks due to heavy battlefield losses. Ukrainian nationals with dual citizenship have been barred from leaving the country, a border guard official said on Tuesday. They are also no longer exempt from the military draft under the new mobilization law. The authorities are struggling to replenish the army ranks as a result of heavy casualties suffered on the battlefield. Russia's defense ministry estimates that Ukraine armed forces lost more than 35,000 troops in May alone. 35,000 in May. That's terrible. Anyway, I'm not gonna read all of this. Everybody knows this, I guess. June 5th, 2024, Home World News. COVID vaccines may have contributed to excess death. Really? I guess I didn't die because of the vaccine, I guess. But this is a study. I'm gonna read because it's interesting. It happened to me. At least the vaccine. Researchers have called for deeper probes into side effects and links to mortality rates. More than 3 million excess deaths were registered in Western countries during the first 3 years of the coronavirus pandemic, according to a new study that suggests that COVID vaccines could be partly to blame. According to the research from Vrije Universiteit in Amsterdam, published in the journal BMJ, Public Health earlier this week, a total of 3,098,456 excess deaths were reported in 47 countries between January 1st, 2020 and December 31, 2022. 3 million. Maybe. Yeah, maybe. Who knows? In 2020, 1.03 million excess deaths were reported in the first full year of the pandemic, the study found. The year 2021, when the first vaccines were rolled out, saw over 1.25 billion excess deaths, and in 2022, when COVID-related restrictions were lifted, over 880,000 excess deaths were recorded, according to preliminary data cited in the study. Excess mortality has remained high in the Western world for 3 consecutive years, despite the implementation of containment measures and COVID-19 vaccines, according to the research. The researchers said the unprecedented figures raise serious concerns, and that policymakers should conduct thorough investigations into the underlying causes of persistent excess mortality. During the pandemic, it was emphasized by politicians and the media on a daily basis that every COVID-19 death mattered and every life deserved protection through containment measures and COVID-19 vaccines. In the aftermath of the pandemic, the same morals should apply, they said. What? I'm not getting everything, I guess, from this, but I'm gonna read it all, I guess. The authors pointed out that suspected adverse events have been recorded even though vaccines were supposed to protect recipients from death or severe illness due to COVID-19. They added that medical professionals and drug recipients reported serious injuries and deaths following vaccinations, according to various official databases. The study concluded that differentiating between the causes was challenging, as national statistics agencies vary in thoroughness and quality. Testing policies for coronavirus differ from state to state, and not everyone agreed on what qualified as a COVID-19 death. The researchers also noted that side effects linked to vaccinations against COVID-19 included Schema is stroke. Schema is stroke, acute coronary syndrome, brain hemorrhage, cardiovascular diseases, coagulation, hemorrhages, gastrointestinal events, and fatal blood clotting. I guess health is super tricky because anybody who is old can have this just by nothing, just by being an old people, an old citizen, an old human being. You can die for everything. In May 2023, the World Health Organization, WHO, declared that the coronavirus was no longer a global health emergency. However, COVID-19 cases and follow-up deaths are still being reported across the world. According to data tracked by Geneva-based institution, 36,014 cases were registered globally in the 7 days before May 19, marking a week-on-week rise of 2,336, which is nothing, for the world. 2,000 people during winter is normal. And that's it, I guess. Yeah, I just finished the news now. I'm just gonna read some headlines. June 5th, 2024, Homeworld News. China says its Ukraine peace plan is winning support. Beijing, I'm gonna read this later, I guess. Beijing was snubbed Kiev's invitation to the peace summit in Switzerland. June 5th, Homeworld News. Palestinian fired over Gaza censorship, sues Meta Reuters. Well, and that's it. Well, the news I read is interesting. I don't know what to criticize about. Maybe I would criticize the fact that there's no World War III. I'm supporting World War III by, I don't know if it's to support or not. I'm just happy of not being in Kaliningrad, let's say. Can you imagine being in Kaliningrad? That would be a hell.